Hey guys, it's Chris here from Chris's Creative Life, and I design workshops that help you create beautiful projects from start to finish. So I added something new there today. So I thought that was kind of fun. I found a countdown clock. So it let me do all my sharing and stuff before, and then I didn't have to do it once I had you guys on here. Okay, so whoever watched earlier this week, I did some prep work on my background for this page. So I wanted a watercolor background and I wanted it to be ballerina. So if you want the chart that I'm about to show you, just make sure to comment chart and I'll come back and throw the link in there for you. But it was basically, we took our watercolors. This is just a chart of the true colors, the way that they show up on the paints when you add a little bit of water to them. And then, I just moved that. I'm trying not to spill my drink. When you paint with a little bit of water in each of the pods of the watercolors. I hope you're having a wonderful day too. It is very chilly here today. I was supposed to do this yesterday and we had like a snowstorm, but it wasn't really even a snowstorm. It was just blowing snow. And it was supposed to be my day to go to Costco. So my son had the day off. And so he offered to take me to Costco and shop with me. And that's not, I will just tell you, his favorite thing on the face of the earth to do. So I was all over taking him up on his offer. So we're all stocked up and hopefully one day it's going to stop snowing here again and I'll be happy. So I mixed my colors so that I could get this fun ballerina color, and I just followed the little chart on how to mix everything so that I got a true ballerina color or pretty close to it. I was happy with it. So like I said, if you need the chart, just write the comment chart and I'll come back and I'll add in the link. It's super easy to find. And like I said, I did print these on cardstock. They're not on printer paper because I'm playing with watercolor. They are, yes, it was an adventurous ride in his truck, but whatever. Like I said, I'll take it. I printed them on cardstock because I did not think that watercolor, like the hard or cold pressed watercolor paper would go through my printer because it's like quite stiff. So I just printed it on like white daisy cardstock just so that I had a little bit more stability than just a copy sheet. So, and like I said, it tells you how to mix all of them. You could see the colors that I've mixed so far. I kind of just mix them when I'm ready to use them. I haven't gone through and done all the mixing because I don't necessarily need it. Hey, Gay. But it's super easy to follow. So here you can see when I mix the mint, sorry, in my original one, I had a little bit too much water. You probably can't see it. So even the white daisy, it started to pill the white daisy. So I just did a little swatch beside it. But that's why I thought it would be best to print it on like white daisy cardstock versus the printer paper. And then I can refer back to it whenever I need to. Okay, so I'm going to put you down on my desk and we're going to start assembling this layout. So this one is going to be a one-page spread, but I did actually have an idea and I might come back and do like a companion page next week because I do have more photographs from this grand adventure. So I'm going to put you down on my desk and get to putting it together. Okay, so this was actually, it's funny that I'm talking about snow today and needing it to go away soon because this was actually like October when we went to the beach. And like October for us is fall, and so it's normally starting to get chilly and like blustery and we get lots of rain in the fall. But this day was absolutely gorgeous, and I love the beach. I love the lake, but I love the beach probably the most. And so do the dogs. Well, Emmy not so much. She doesn't really like the beach. But Obi loves swimming. He loves the beach. He loves the fact that he can just go out. He'll go and play in the waves, all those things. So it was just a quiet day. I'm not even sure why Brian was around, because I actually think it was during the week. And it was like 22 degrees Celsius, which I have no idea what it is in Fahrenheit, but it was beautiful. And so we decided, let's just go for a drive to the beach and go throw the ball for the dogs in the water. So that is what I'm going to put together today. I've grabbed, like I said, some of the new mix-ins, which I love because the whole theme is black and white, so you really can't go wrong. So I'm just using it like as my neutral and then adding in color. And then I've cut a whole pile of flowers from the mix-ins to go on the layout. And then I'm going to use the stamp of the month here also. So I used the mix-ins paper, some Ballerina, and some shortbread. And we're just going to play with it. This is from Sawyer and for the leaves. And so let's just see how this all comes together. So I have my photos printed. This is just my little swatch where I was playing around with the different things you could do with the watercolor, right? You can paint it just solid. I did some smooshing. You can use a sponge and you get a totally different look, right? So you can add color in so many ways. You don't just necessarily, it doesn't necessarily just have to be stamping or any of those things. So I did use my thin cuts. Okay, so I just wanted to show you this. So this thin cut has a lot of pieces on it, and I sometimes forget to say this, but I quite often put the number of thin cuts that are supposed to be on my magnetic sheet. I just print them on my packaging to make sure that when I'm finished and I clean up, that I've actually got all my pieces here, or inevitably I'll end up with one sitting on my desk and then not remember where it goes back to. So like when I was pushing it through lots of times, right, they're like literally all over my office. So sometimes just to remind myself to make sure that I'm putting all my pieces back together. This does not say 77, it says 17, just so we know that. But I just thought I would show you that because I keep forgetting to say it, and I think it's a good tip. Okay, so here we go. I picked this piece, which the webcam is not going to like, of the mix-ins paper. I call this like the chevron print. I'm not really sure that that's actually technically what it is. Okay, and then I have a piece of Ballerina. And then here is my piece of White Daisy that I did the watercoloring on. And so I kind of think it actually looks like pink water a little bit. And it'll just be a nice little foundation for underneath our clusters. So I'm going to do some flowers up here, some flowers down here. I put some over here just so that it would be off the edge of my photograph. And so we're going to adhere it all together. While I'm doing that, I'll start putting adhesive on it while I keep talking. So watercolor, right? Sometimes your paper warps. So I thought I would just try something. I know that some people have like the Mink machine, and they'll run their piece of paper back through that to flatten it out. I don't have that. So today I was actually doing laundry, and I was in my laundry room, and that's where my heat press actually happens to be, like my Cricut heat. Oh my goodness, sorry about that. My Cricut heat press, and I thought, oh, why don't we just try this? So I actually ironed my piece of paper, keeping a paper towel, not a paper towel, like a tea towel in the middle, and I heat pressed my piece of cardstock, and it's not perfect, but it's pretty close. It's awesome. So if you ever find that your piece of paper is super warped after watercoloring it, that is always, I'm assuming you could do the same thing with your iron. I just do not very often iron. So that is never my go-to. And it just happened to be in my laundry room, and I was in there anyway. So, and like I said, it is pretty flat. Okay. So, like I said, we're going to do some flowers up here. This is, oh no, here we go. Nope, I was right the first time. Okay, so this photo is going over here. So I have a 4x6, and I just did a really like 1/8 of an inch border with that Sawyer paper to bring in it to match the leaves, and then a ballerina, and then black. You don't have to add that many borders. I just thought I liked the way it kind of brought everything together. So I do have a place photo here, matte down. But because I like that little tiny white border, and so I always trim off just like 1/8 of an inch. Because lots of time, I'm just so used to it now. Okay. And then here are the dogs. So same process, right? This is just a 4x6, and this is a 4x4. And I think it's just because now it's just part of my design process, right? Okay, so I'm just going to see if I want this nudged underneath. I think so. Okay. So like I said, I do have more photographs from this. So I think next week I might design a companion page for this. And then maybe we'll turn the whole thing into like a sketch, if you guys want. Okay. So I kind of want it up there. Okay, so then I used the stamp of the month, and this is shortbread just with black ink, okay? Because I wanted to kind of tie in the sand, and then I've used shortbread also with my flowers. So the leaves are the only thing I did this on first, but I am going to add a little bit of shortbread distressing on some of it, just to kind of tie that in. So I've got 3 sets of leaves. Oh, that's good. I'm glad. So I'm going to kind of just go like this. So I'm going to like dry fit everything in, and then I'll start adhering things, right? So I have this one for at the top, and I think I'll go this way. Okay. So I also did just some single leaves that we can tuck into spots if I need. But let's start assembling some flowers. I should probably actually move this down onto the wood grain so the camera. It's trying to white balance the white. And so that's what makes that autofocus feature go crazy. And I can't figure out for the life of me how to turn it off. And then sometimes you do need it too, so you want to be careful. So like I said, I just picked pieces from the mix-ins, and obviously there are no flowers that look like this, but I thought they were kind of fun. So I'm going to pick some of them and add a little bit of the shortbread to kind of tie it back in, but I'm not going to do all of them. So I have a little cluster for the top and then a cluster for the bottom. So I've done 3 for the top and 5 for the bottom. So right away, I know I want this on 3D foam tape. And it says, I want to remember this because this was like a crazy, not normal October day. So, and then I grabbed something fun. So I think we're going to use the mini circles as one of our embellishments. So, because there's like Ballerina in here and that mint color, and then even that the blue color goes quite nicely. Okay, so let's not put it on upside down. Okay, so I'm going to actually adhere my leaves down first, just with some glue dots. So I added them already onto my glue dots so that I can just pull them off when it comes time to adding them. So these are like the micro glue dots because I think that they're really good for like the branches behind the leaves. So I'm just gonna press it down and pick it up, and I'm just gonna put a few, and then if I have to, I can always add more adhesive later, right? I just kind of want to fit it in where I want it. Okay, and then like I said, if later I feel like I need more adhesive, I can totally add it. So this is going up into here. So I'll just add these in first. And the distressing just kind of, I think, brings the shortbread into another part of the layout. So, and then I've mixed in, like I said, I have just a couple of those single leaves. That's probably awful grammar I just used, holy smokes. Because it wouldn't be a single leaf. Okay. So, there we go. Okay, and then I'm going to just adhere this one down, and then we'll start assembling our flowers. I just wanted to kind of, when I'm creating, quite often I'll kind of block everything in so that I can see if I need to add more or less. Typically it's always add more, never take away. So okay, there we go. Okay, so like I said, I'm going to put down the biggest flower first, just so that I kind of, and this one, like I said, it's all just different kinds of patterns. I'm just going to curl my petals just a little bit. They'll flatten out a little bit underneath the page protector, but I might as well add a little bit of dimension. And then I have, this one is just the 4 petal flower. This thin cut is one of my favorite thin cuts. You guys have seen me use it so much, but I would say that none of the layouts that have the flowers look the same. Like, they're completely different. So as I can think of, there's actually a layout right behind me. I just recently cleaned my office. Oh no, and I can't find it. But it looks completely different than this one. Okay, so then I have this. Okay, so I'm going to add some shortbread ink just onto a few of the pieces. So I just have cut up my sponge. This is a little piece of shortbread cardstock, and I've just stapled it onto my sponge. And then when they're in my bucket, I know which it belongs to. If I'm worried that I'm not going to remember what color it is, I can actually write on it. But by having the colored cardstock there, I seem to always then know what color it is. So, and then some of the layers I'm going to add foam between, and some I will just add directly. And so I just kind of literally just played. It was fun. So you could use the same pattern and use any sort of theme. I'm going to do this one flat. So, and then I'm changing the layers up, right? So some have dimension and some don't. And some will have more layers, right? To add more interest. And then the ballerina. So see how pretty that looks, just because it's all sorts of different layers together. So I'm not going to stick that down just yet, because I just want to make sure that that's how I want it. So 1, 2. And one of the things I love about the thin cut is when you have layered things, sometimes it's super hard to get everything back together. But this, the flower one, I find it's very easy because every flower has a unique kind of petal or configuration. So it's super easy to figure out which goes back where. So for like this one, I always look for this point here, and I know exactly where it goes on the bottom piece. So there's like 2 layers, and then there's all sorts of like centers that you can use, and they're all different, right? So by mixing and matching them, your flowers always look different. So it's super easy to line them up. I'm just looking for those 2 things together. I did a little shortbread on that outer edge, and I'm going to pop this up on 3D foam. And I finally remembered to pull out the dots before I started, because it's way faster for you guys to not have to watch me cut them all. So I'll just add that. Just offset, because this is actually that center. So I'm just offsetting it so you see all the layers underneath. Okay, and then I have one that's just solid cardstock. And so here's one of those stitch centers, right? It just has that really nice detail. So even though I'm doing a top layer that is shortbread, my bottom layer is ballerina, and then I'm going to add the shortbread topper. You'll still see the center because I picked one that's small enough to fit inside of the flower. And so you'll still see the ballerina part peeking out. So, like I said, with the black and white mix-ins, it's so handy because then you can kind of pick any sort of color scheme that you want to use for it. Okay, I need my piercing tool. I love the little stitch detail. I'm a sucker for a good stitched detail. Okay, so then this is actually my next biggest flower, so I'm thinking I need to put it in my configuration. So I'm going to do this. I love this one with the little square print on it, the graphic square print. Okay, and then same thing, I'm just really gently rolling the petals to my flowers. And I picked one that's on the gray side, and this is just the solid of like the 4 petals there. And they're obviously not the matchy match flowers, right? I picked all sorts of different ones. And so if I'm using different ones, when I add the next layer on top, I'm offsetting it so that the petals are like, it looks more flower-like. Just like that. And then we'll do this one flat. So like I said, I'm also playing with different layers, right? So some will be flat and some will be popped up. Okay, so this one is going in here. This one might go over here. And then I have this fun one here. I think I might put that at the top here. We're gonna just see. So I have a black background and then one of the black and white prints. And then this fun little center, which is I think a pop out from one of the flowers. So this will go on 3D foam tape. Onto the back. I'll add these two together quickly. Oh, this print is from the Sweet as Honey, because there's also a black and white print in Sweet as Honey. So there's a little bit of Sawyer, a little bit of Sweet as Honey, and then the mix-ins, and then my cardstock colors. So see how sweet that is? Okay, so I think that's how that is going to go, and I'm kind of happy with that. So we're going to start gluing stuff down, and then I'll move up to my top cluster. So I know I want this on top, so I'm actually going to leave that to glue down last. And if you wanted to pop things up even more, you could add more on the back of these flowers too, right? I just kind of want a little bit of everything showing. And I actually think I'm going to pop this one up. It's the perfect way. And actually, I was going to say that too. So I have here, so lots of times, right, when I'm die cutting, I'm just like, I'll run lots of layers through and stuff. So when it's like a specialty thin cut, I'll normally throw it back in the package with the thin cuts that it belongs to. But something like this flower, I have one of the organizers for like the black organizers like this, but the long one sitting there, and all the flowers I just throw in there. And I'm thinking that one day we're just going to create a big layout with all mixed different kinds of flowers, and I think that'll be awesome. But it is the perfect way to use up scraps, right? Because really, I've hardly used anything as far as supplies on here. So I'm going to glue this down now and then fit in my smaller flowers. And I think I'm going to do my journaling over here. I'll probably add in some pencil lines to follow and then add my journaling in there. Okay, so now let's work on this top little cluster here. So like I said, I have 3 for the top. So I'm going to put together my biggest one with the most layers first. And then I have, this is my favorite flower. I love this one. I think it's just the wonky little center on it. I'm sure that's why I like it. Okay, so. And so many times you'll see like a color fall through lots of collections. So like I said, it's perfect, right? You could totally mix and match collections with the flowers, right? Because, for example, let's take Wild Berry, which is the color of the year, right? So I know it hasn't been in a ton of collections this year, but it has been in a few. So you'd see little bits of Wild Berry running through lots of the papers, right? So you could pull those all in together. Or even just mixing and matching is tons of fun, right? You could use that as your accent color and look for colors that would coordinate with Wild Berry to bring it all together. Okay, so that's all the distressing I'm going to do on here. I love this little wonky dot too. It kind of almost looks like an animal print, especially once you kind of distress it with the shortbread. Okay, and then I have this layer. And I do these 2 flat. And like I said, I'm just offsetting them to make my flower fuller. And then I have this flat layer, and I'm going to pop this one up. See, and by adding the shortbread distressing, it makes it look just a little bit different than by plain. Okay, so then I have a piece of Ballerina. So also, when I was mixing and matching the colors, I just tried to kind of make sure that in each cluster I had all of the colors. So I had the Sawyer green in each of the clusters. I had the Ballerina in each of the clusters. I made sure I had the shortbread in each of the clusters, that I had enough of the black and white in each of the clusters, right? So you just want to kind of make sure that if you're putting a color, like let's just take Ballerina for example, if I've got it in one cluster, I want at least a little bit of it in another cluster. So see how fun that is, just a little bit wonky. Okay, so this one is just 2 layers. I'm going to do the pink here. And then by having these pieces here, if I felt I needed to pull something else in, that's why I kept them, even though I had kind of like figured out what I thought I might want to do. Like let's say I think this flower needs something else, I could totally, I know, I actually really like shortbread. I think that even though it's like quite a light color, it goes with a lot of things. And it just when you distress something too, it just kind of brings the whole project together, right? Like it's a nice way to make everything that's not matchy match, right? So because I'm pulling stuff from lots of different places, no different than when I said I'm looking to make sure like I have Ballerina here and Ballerina here, it kind of brings the 2 things together all on its own. I'm just trying to decide. I might put that on that flower, but I'm going to put this last one together first. No, I'm probably not, because I realize I have this here. So, and that goes that way. And let's adhere these 2 together. The gray, the mint side of this dot is really quite lovely too. because there's only one sheet in all the mix-ins, I always have to make sure that I order them in twos so that I do. I really, I don't know what it is about the shortbread, but it's so neutral, I think, that it's really lovely to mix with other things. Because it's not brown, and it's not gray toned, so it just kind of seems to I seem to be able to mix it into a lot of different things. Okay, and then I have this crazy little center here. I'm going to pop up. And I think sometimes with like distressing with brown colors, I know it's very versatile. I think sometimes when you distress with a brown color, you get that real vintage feeling. I'm not sure if that really makes sense. Versus I don't feel like that when I use shortbread. You don't get that same kind of tone, I guess, and feeling with it. Okay, I'm just going to move that slightly out of my way so that I don't end up with it all over myself. As if you watched my video earlier this week, I ended up with watercolor paint all over myself. That's okay. I cleaned myself up. And I did say the funniest part is there's actually, oh, it's not hanging on my door right now, but I do have an apron literally sitting on the door of my, it's normally hanging right there, but there's something else hanging there right now. So it's a more modern look than that the brown doesn't give, right? I think I just need to tighten this up just a little bit. So I'm just going to move this back. And okay, so no, there's just something wrong with this leaf. I think there. I like that better. Okay, so there we go. Okay, so then, like I said, I grabbed the mini circles. And so these are that same foam texture like the hearts, which you could do the exact same thing I'm about to do with those, right? So these, they might actually even be a little bit thinner. But you could add a glue dot onto the back of these and do exactly the same thing, right? So they're designed for shakers, but it doesn't mean you can't use them in a different way. So these are just the regular glue dots, and I just picked out some of them, and I'm going to add them on here into my clusters as my embellishment. Because this one's kind of like pinky peach, and this is like the mint. So now I'm just going to add them the same way I would add like sequins or anything, and they just stick just like that. Didn't even test this out before, so I'm glad it did actually work. So it's just like a little bit something different than a sequin, right? And you can see it is, so this is it against the ballerina. So it's just slightly a different color. So it kind of looks really nice with like the ballerina watercolor behind it. And then I splattered on top of it, right? Oh, I'm gonna need to add some more. So I'll show you exactly how I did it. Okay, so I just went in, and so like I said, these are all fun colors, right? I just didn't want to introduce another color until I know what I'm going to do on my second page. So next week I'll come back and I'll do a companion page. I have an idea of how I'll turn it into 2 pages. But I didn't want to bring in another color until I was exactly sure what I was going to do on that second page. So like I said, I'm just going to stick with like the lighter pink peach and the mint. So the purple would actually look really nice in there too. But like I said, I'm not going to do that until I know for sure. Okay, so I need some of the green down here. So I literally just picked them up. Oh, look, I have one. Added them onto my glue dot, and I did push it down just so that I make sure that they're actually sticking together before I pull it off. And then if I happen to add too many on here that I'm not going to use, I would just rip off this piece of the wax paper and just put it in my container. And then I could use it when I wanted to do another layout or the next page, right? Because I would need more anyway. So it's not a waste if I had added too many. You could also even add them like into the center of the flowers if you wanted. Here, I'll just do it and I'll show you in a different color so you could actually see. But for some of them, they would be easy to use as a center on one of the flowers, right? Once you've got some layers in the smaller pieces, you could add them into the center there. Just another idea. Okay, I think that's enough. So now I'm just going to add a little bit of shimmer brush and then we're done. So I just grabbed my clear shimmer brush and I'm just going to add it on some of the flowers. So I'm shaking it up so that my glitter is flowing. And then I'm just going to pick some spots. And this never translates very well on video, but it just kind of adds that little something. Right, so I'm just picking a few spots. It kind of actually looks like the sand even, which is kind of fun because the sand is like glistening in the photographs. And I'm not going to add it onto like everything. I'm just adding it kind of in a few spots on each of the clusters. You could probably even add it on these if you wanted them to be sparkly. Let's see. So I'll just So if you want a little bit of shine on those foam dots, you can totally add shimmer brush on them. And then I think just for my final touch, okay, so I have my shortbread shimmer brush, and I love this new edition where they have the names of the colors on your shimmer brushes. I need to close that lid up or I will dump them all. At least you guys know it's all real when I have accidents. Okay, so I'm just going to add a little bit of splatter. And I could have done this before, but of course I didn't. So I'm just going to cover up my photograph because those are the only things that I care if I actually get splatter on that where I don't want it. So again, I'm going to shake it up and I'm going to make sure that it is going. And here, we're going to do this. So I just have one of my acrylic blocks, and you guys can tell I've done, I don't know if you could see it, but I actually have, I think, Wildberry shimmer brush on the top that I can't get off. I need to give my blocks a good clean. So I'm just putting it down in here. You could put it on your all-purpose mat or just even a scrap piece of paper if you want, just because I want more control over how much splatter I'm doing on my floral areas. Right, so I'm just adding more layers, and you can stop whenever you want. Okay, and then I'm just going to add a little bit down here to this cluster. So I don't know if it actually shows up how pretty it actually is on camera, but there is that shortbread shimmer brush. It is really pretty. So I'm just going to squeeze a little bit more out. There we go. I think that's good. Okay. So that is the layout. And so because I'm going to say something, because I figured I was going to turn it into a 2-page spread, that's why I've only got 2 focal areas on this layout, because I know already, right? I knew I had more photos. So like I said, I'll design a companion page to go beside it, and we'll probably do it next week. I'll try and do it next week anyway. So I'm going to then do my 3rd cluster right up over here so that I get that nice triangle going, right? So that's why there's just 2 on this page. I could totally just leave it like this. Then I might try and add a little something more in to balance it out a little bit. Like I could even put something just up here off the edge of my page, right? So this is not going to be a good example, but if I wanted to leave it, I might add like a tag or something up here so that at least you're getting that triangle closing. But because I know I'm probably going to do a 2nd page, I'm not going to add anything up here. But if you wanted to leave it as a single page, that's what I would do. Add something like a tag and add like 1 flower up here or something along that, or even just if you wanted to do just a smaller flower cluster, you could totally do that too. You can kind of see how you can complete that triangle without disrupting the whole layout. Just one sec. I'm just going to grab a wipe so that I don't end up with shortbread shimmer brush on my shirt today. So it does clean up very easily off your block. And I find that I just have a little bit more control over doing it that way. So there we go. And that is what I've got for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll just talk about what I actually did here. So, like I said, this is just mix-ins, and then I picked the colors that I knew I wanted to use. So I knew that it would be Ballerina and it would be mint, right? And shortbread. Those were that was just the easiest way to bring in. I also wanted to make sure to bring in my sand is kind of what I was doing. Oh, I'm glad, Gay. So like I said, when I add the companion page, eventually I'll turn it into a sketch so that you guys will have all the measurements and stuff after. So, and I just played around with the flowers and just ran them through randomly to start with. And then as I started to, I have an idea in my head. So I think it'll be pretty easy to turn into a second page. Also, when you're trying to go from a single page and turn it into a second page, always just look for a grid kind of. That's a good way to tie like one page onto the other. I'll show you when I do that, but so many fun options. So then, but first I did the watercolor on the background. Now I see, right, I probably should have added some more. This space should have been bigger, or I should have moved this photo up. But so I could still go back in because I can color match, right? So I could just mix up my color again, exactly the same, and I would color match it to here and add in just a little bit down here, peeking out every once in a while, right? Just with my plastic bag again. It's easy enough because some of the stuff, and I don't need a ton. You can see little bits of it poking through off to the sides, but it probably should have come farther down here. But you don't really know that until you put it all together. But so if anybody needs that chart, just comment chart and I'll come back and throw up the link. So that's what I've got for you guys today. I hope you have a great day and we will talk to you later, guys. Bye-bye.